The panel that we have is on operations in M&E. I think one of the most important things of a non-profit organizations is the operations in M&E. You can't function if you don't have the operations in place. And if you don't measure it, then you don't know how it's functioning. So I think the two main important components of any non-profit organization or any organization in general is operations in M&E. And we have an interesting moderator today, or even yesterday that we had. We had Anshu from GOONJ who's moderating it. And yes, it's an extremely innovative organization, but one of the other reasons why we've invited Anshu and GOONJ is because they have probably the best operations that you could think of. If we are talking about technology, but without technology, GOONJ sort of set up a Six Sigma kind of model. If you talk about just-in-time delivery that Apple does, I think you need to see how GOONJ delivers when they get an order from the ground and actually delivers those trucks right to any disaster region or anywhere. I think before anywhere disaster strikes, I think GOONJ is on the ground with the supplies there in time. Before any of the international organizations come, and to be honest, they stay, I think, after everybody leaves. After the press leaves and everybody else leaves. So I think those are the kind of things, I think those are the reasons, that's the reason why we have Anshu here, because if you want to look at operations, and this is probably the best model that we want to, or one of the best models that we should be studying and understanding, that manage this without technology, how can we better this also, or how, I mean, he would be the best one to tell you. So why don't I invite Anshu on stage, and the panel with him, to talk about operations and M&E.
Thank you. And like yesterday, again, we have a tough task to make sure that you guys are awake. Rather, we are awake, and also a very complicated but an interesting topic, because when you talk about innovations, operations, M&E and all, it's a part of our life, and maybe many of us do not understand the seriousness of it, but a lot of organizations have really scaled up because they worked a lot on this, with technology, without technology. So what I'll do today is, obviously the panel which I need to introduce, and I will not introduce in detail because the work is the introduction, and you will see the work of all the people. Although today we decided not to talk much about work, but give a lot of space for the Q&A so that we understand these models in a very practical way. So we have in this panel, from the extreme left, Mr. Donald Lobo, worked with Silicon Valley and startups, and like for last many years, this particular work. And yesterday, I think one of the questions which we didn't ask him, today I'm asking him so that when he comes to speak, he must answer. The organization is called Chintu Gudiya Foundation. So he must tell us that why this beautiful name, for sure. Second, we have Ashok ji from Central Square Foundation, hardcore operation person as he calls himself, and about 7 years right from the inception with the Central Square Foundation. Then we have Anupama. Anupama is a data scientist that way, and she says that what I've done in the last 19 years is just data analysis. So I'm just giving one-liner for each one of them, although the work will speak more. Then Anuj couldn't make today. Anuj's colleague Sanjay Ghatak is here from Sarvajal, the Piramal's work, which you will see today. And then we have Jayant, hardcore corporate guy. He used to be, and now runs Magic Bus. So this is what the panel is. We will talk about us and about work a bit later. I just want to give another 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes to all of you to tell us what are the expectations from this session. So like yesterday, someone came to me and told me that we must talk about data privacy also. Then someone yesterday after the session came to me and said that too much of data, and whole lot of us cannot create that data in a particular format. But just before this session, we spoke about funding and all, and everyone is talking about that particular data, which in lot of behavior change, system change, is becoming complicated for many of us to talk in that numbers. I mean, that's what I was referring yesterday also, that it's very easy and beautiful to say 100,000 lives changed, but how do you change the life? We don't know. And this entire life we spend of our own to change our own life, and very easily we just claim 100,000 life change. So it looks beautiful, in the presentation. My whole issue is that if everyone is changing 100,000 lives, then how come we still see this kind of poverty, migration, suicide, every kind of social problem? So any expectations from the session from all of us, if you have? Generic, not organizational wise, but generic. Yeah, please speak up. Just maybe in one line, so that.
Yep. Since this is about M&E, measurements and evaluation, and that goes somewhere into taking appropriate decision-making process. So a simple question is, what should be the ultimate or the highest goal of any NGO?
Highest goal of an NGO?
Yep.
Okay.
So what should be the final goal or the ultimate goal? To scale up or scale down?
All kind of a scale. Scale out, down, up, whatever you can. Because this country, to be honest, needs everything. But anyway, we'll leave it to the panelists also to answer. Anything else? Yeah, Ingrid.
So I have two questions really. One is, or two issues that I'd like to address. One is the tail now, is the impact measurement tail now wagging the dog? Is our need to sort of present metrics, gratified CSR foundations need to report things is that now driving how we design stuff? Or are we measuring to improve our own effectiveness? To what extent is donor pressure, in some senses, actually pushing us towards models that are easy to measure, for example, is one. And the second one is, there's a lot of data that we're collecting, all of us, in various forms, formally, informally, as numeric data, but also as photographs, video, stories, etc. I'm seeing much less evidence that any of that data is actually informing strategic decision making. It seems to me that data is becoming data for its own sake or data for donors rather than data that's actually feeding into improving our own operations. So I'd like to hear a little bit about how is that loop, that information loop, being implemented in organizations?
So I request all of you to really, when you present your work, that's the whole idea. Anything else? Anything else? Yeah. And let's leave some questions after the panel also. But to start with,
So I just had sort of two things. One is if you guys can focus on best case practices that you guys have done, especially in the design part of your operations, because everybody says design and think enough and then it'll work. So what are good ways to do that? Or is it actually just retrospectively, then okay, I thought this. And the second piece is also the balance between M&E and ops. I feel like we're really torn between how much time do I spend collecting and analyzing and how much time do I spend actually doing what I'm supposed to. So if you can highlight how you manage that balance within your work.
One more, if anyone else has any query, comment or question. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Raisa from Deshpande Foundation. So sometimes creating a lot of data, it affects the operations a lot. I mean, the pressure on operations is so much, the authenticity level sometimes go down of the data which has been created from that. So can you reflect on that
Wonderful.
aspect?
So keep your questions, and if none of us is able to answer in this next half an hour, 45 minutes till all of us speak, make sure to ask those again. It needs to be solved, whatever little the experience out here can convey. So the way we will do it, I think I'll just speak for 2-3 minutes because a lot of you know about GOONJ, but I believe that most of us do not know what GOONJ does. We only know about GOONJ that we are about collection and distribution of old clothes. That's how people see us, and of late people have also started looking at us at the time of disasters. But when we started 20 years back, the very basic thing was ignored needs or the non-issues, which includes clothing and the rural wisdom and the rural development in some cases. And the second most important part was to reposition some of these issues, including clothing. Then we also spoke about parallel currencies and the most important part for all of us was dignity. And that is the thing in the last session also at the end, that's what I simply, my question was that how long will we sell poverty to remove poverty? How long will we use the wrong language which divides us in donor and beneficiary? So the moment I call myself donor, I will only look down to the beneficiaries or look straight, but never look up. How many of us are really learning from the grassroots? So we are a hardcore, on these parameters, we are a hardcore rural development institution. Last year we made about 600 kilometers of roads. But when I talk about technology and M&E and all that kind of thing, it is hardcore rural wisdom, rural way of doing it. So we are absolutely happy to find water with the help of a coconut, because that is what 20 years back used to happen, and even today it happens. Because 600,000 villages of India cannot wait for the technology to happen. It is needed. It is 100% needed. But we cannot wait for next 50 years to reach the last village. That's how we are operating. So we are a hardcore rural development, water sanitation organization. The only difference is that with the money, our additional currency is material. So what material we collect from you, almost 5.5, 6 million kgs of material. After huge amount of segregation, after matching the needs of people, it goes as a reward. So people dig their own pond, dig their well, make roads, and then they are rewarded in kind. So that's an additional currency for operation. We need money, but we are not solely dependent on money. We value local skill, local resources, and material as a currency. More about GOONJ on Google, but let's just start with this particular session, and we will be talking about the operational models in this particular segment. Most beautiful part about this particular panel is that most of us are working in different domains. So you can actually get the glimpses of M&E and operations and innovations in these different domains. Let me start with Ashok ji, and we have today about 7 minutes for each one of us, and the most important thing for us to see is that monitor. So, thank you.